It is 10 a.m. and I'd like to call to order the Tele meeting of the Board of Directors of Friday, September 24th, 2021. Please note this meeting is being recorded. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Thank you and good morning again, everyone. Director Arnold. Absent. Director Conroy.
Present.
Thank you. Director Frederick.
Present.
Director Garbarino.
Present.
Thank you. Director Giudice.
Here.
Director Grosboll.
Here.
Director Hernandez. Absent. Director Hill.
Here.
Director Maskin.
Here.
Director Melgar. Absent. Director Rabbit.
Here.
Director Rodoni.
Here.
Director Snyder.
Here.
Director Stephanie. Absent. Second Vice President Cochran.
Here.
First Vice President Theriault.
Here.
And Director Carr.
Present.
Thank you. You have a quorum. And I'm going to confirm staff on the line.
All right.
Dennis Mulligan.
Yes.
Joe Wire.
Yes.
Ava Bauer-Furbish.
Present.
Tim Manolius.
Good morning. Sorry about that. Good morning.
That's all right. Steve Miller.
Present.
Mona Babauta.
Present.
And Kelly Hopper.
Present.
Thank you. And I believe while I was calling the staff roll, Director Melgar, did you join us?
Yes, I'm present. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That confirms everyone on the line.
Jim Swindler is still on the line.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Did we get everyone checked in?
We sure did.
All right. Thank you to again today for joining us this morning. And we appreciate your continued patience as we continue to conduct our business in this manner. I'll be asking board members that have comments or questions on the agenda items. And if there are questions, the secretary or I will call on you accordingly. After the discussion, we'll be taking the appropriate roll call vote. If you're not speaking, please remember to mute your phones to minimize the noise on today's call. And remember to unmute when you're speaking. Sometimes that's the hardest, is to push the right button to unmute. Each page of the meeting packet is numbered at the bottom right-hand corner to make it easier to follow along. Director Fredericks, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the
flag
flag
of the United States of America
and to
and to the republic
and
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Hoorah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Director Fredericks. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. We're going to move on to public comment for any and all items on today's agenda. If you wish to speak on an item, you don't have to wait for that item. Please speak to it now. Justine Bach is assisting today to moderate that public comment line. Justine had already mentioned to me that there are at least 4 speakers. So Justine, go ahead and introduce the first speaker.
Thank you. Good morning. Our first speaker is Kimberly Renee Gamboa.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Renee Gamboa. I am holding one of my favorite school photos of my 18-year-old son, Kyle Emerson Gamboa. On September 20th, 2013, at 11:45 a.m., Kyle Bridge. Last Monday was the 8th anniversary of Kyle's death, the worst day of my life. The entire summer, and especially the last month before Kyle's death, every year, I walked through Kyle's life at that time. Kyle's 18th birthday, his week-long laser tag tournament, his high school soccer games, the first day of Kyle's senior year in high school, his planning for college. And I checked with myself, yes, Kyle was actively involved in life. he was still alive and he was still breathing, all the way up to 11:45 a.m. on Friday, September 20th, 2013. It's really hard imagining Kyle is gone forever and he is not coming back. Suicide is not something you can undo, and the loss of a child leaves a hole in your soul that will never go away. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly Ray, for reminding us how special Kyle was and the importance of our work with the suicide deterrent. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Shane Weinstein. Shane, go ahead.
Chair Park, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, Shane.
Good morning. Let me just first start by saying our thoughts are with Kyle and his family as well during the anniversary of his death, and we're thinking about him. Good morning, Chair Parr and her fellow directors. My name is Shane Weinstein, president of ATU 1575, representing all active and retired bus operators of Golden Gate Transit. I rise today to bring to light a very obvious pension emergency that we have currently and that we have had here for many years. I first want to thank all the directors that took the time out to speak with me over the last week and a half to better understand the dire position that our plan is in. My members just received an annual funding notice, which sparked immediate outcry and extreme concern for our collective future. The notice stated that our funding levels have decreased from 55.3% in 2019 to 53.2% in 2020, and currently we are at 50.3%. So if that doesn't scream emergency, I don't know what does, especially when we were at 140% funded in the early 2000s. As I've stated to each director that I've spoken with, when I took office here in 2018 and realized the severity of our pension situation, major changes were necessary to pump more money into our plan, and that's exactly what the ATU did. We gave up our decades-old medical plan that was loved to do everything that we could to save our collective future. Now you see the idea of CalPERS Medical that the ATU brought to the table, which is now spread district-wide. Countless millions of dollars will be saved by the district implementing this medical plan across the board. In response to my public comment today, you may hear from the GM that the terms of the contribution are bargained between the district and the union in negotiations. While that is true, General Manager Mulligan negotiates the contract, but he isn't a trustee on the pension. You then have district trustees who don't negotiate the contract, but you have the union representatives who bargain the contract, but are also trustees on the pension. I refuse to negotiate underfunding a plan that I'm also a trustee on. Here's a very simple question. Why aren't we listening to an actuary? Why? This is not responsible. I don't know if any board members know of a plan that doesn't listen to the plan actuary, but I don't. The ATU has been respectfully negotiating in good faith, prepared, and ready to get this deal done. I hope that you will ask their chief negotiator. We have proposed changes to strengthen the plan. We've actually TA'd many changes for the district. It's time for the district to come to the table with responsible and reasonable proposals. I ask that you direct General Manager Mulligan and the staff to work with the ATU to resolve this funding issue once and for all. There have been several contracts passed by the GM in the last 11 years. What has been tried is not working. It's time to listen to an actuary and put an actuarially required contribution on this plan. I'm going to go a little bit off script really quick and just say that we have a personnel emergency coming in here. We have the lowest hourly paid bus drivers in all of the mass transit in the Bay Area, the major mass transit in the Bay Area. We need to entice people to come in here. We need to speed up our onboarding process. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Shane.
Our next speaker is David Pilpel. David, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Can.
Great. I had just a very few minor issues on the minutes. If I can just communicate them separately to Amaret, I think we can take care of it. One thing should have been plural and whatever. And otherwise, the minutes are great. I just wanted to take a moment, as I've said in the past, but just to reemphasize my support for the workers who keep the district running 24/7, at the various divisions, but also to all of you directors under these continuing difficult circumstances, and the officers and the other employees of the district, both represented and non-represented. There are some people that you see or deal with regularly, and others that you don't, that make these meetings happen and just keep the day-to-day running and administration of the district happening. And I just wanted to take a moment yet again to appreciate their work. I can't imagine how difficult it's been and continues to be to get positive work done under these changing and difficult circumstances. So I just wanted to once again note that for the record. That's all I have right now. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Propal.
Our next speaker is David Herrera. David, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, President Barr and Board of Directors. My name is David Herrera, and I'm a 20-year employee for the district as a bus operator. And I am compelled to speak to you today concerning an alarming situation in the bus division that I and all of us are witnessing. I am a second-generation district employee, and I chose to leave 21 years ago, a great employer, to come here at the urging of my father, who spent 26 years here, always praising the district every chance he had. My concern today that I need to bring to your attention is the future of the bus division. We are seeing an alarming amount of good employees leaving via retirement or seeking better employment elsewhere. And this has never been the case in the past. I personally waited 2 years for the hiring window to open because there was an abundance of applicants. Now the district is competing with every employer in the Bay Area for qualified applicants. The district is going to find themselves in a bad situation, unable to serve their communities, and will have no one to blame but themselves for not proactively seeking qualified employees. The district needs to correct the hiring process and market these bus operators at open positions as much as possible. The district needs to agree to a fair contract with the operators that has a competitive wage and benefit structure where potential employees are not concerned about their future and ability to support themselves and their families during and after their employment is done here. We are already behind the 8 ball, and I urge you to aggressively work on these issues so the bus division is not left out in the cold and we come out of this pandemic stronger than we have in the past. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Herrera.
President Parr, I'd like to ask if you would be okay with me polling the room just one last time.
Of course.
Thank you.
President Parr, we had a few members join the public line after the meeting started and during public comment, so we just want to make sure we capture everyone.
Of course.
All right, Justine just confirmed with me there are no other speakers under public comment.
All right, thank you very much. And before we close the public comment, I'd like to acknowledge that we got a letter from Mr. Rohde from the Climate Reality Project that he specifically asked be included in public comment. I believe we all got a copy of that. I just want to put that in the record that we did note that. So thank you everyone for your comments. Mr. Mulligan, do you have any response that you'd like to offer to the comments?
Our heart goes out to the Gamboa family. They've been tremendous supporters of the district building a suicide barrier. Since the tragic loss of their son 8 years ago, they've been to every board meeting but one where there was a scheduling snafu. Their dedication and commitment to helping others avoid the loss that they've experienced with their advocacy for the barrier is unparalleled and unprecedented. And I just wanted to thank them for that. With respect to the ATU pension, the district is committed to working with the union and the pension trustees to solve it. We recognize that there's some challenges there, but we believe there is a path forward. And so we look forward to working with the parties on that. With that, I'm available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. I don't think we'll take questions on this particular one. We'll wait until the items come up if you have questions. So I'm going to conclude the public comments to the board. Madam Secretary, would you please continue to the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. Item 5 is to approve the consent calendar, including the approval of minutes from our from our August committee and board meetings, as well as the ratification of previous actions by the auditor controller. And that consent calendar is located on page 5 to 33 of your packet. And thank you, Mr. Pilpel, for bringing the other items to my attention. And I look forward to your phone call.
All right, thank you. Before we take our vote, are there any questions from board members on the consent calendar? Madam Secretary, would you please, hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move consent.
Second.
Thank you. And I have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We have a first from Director Arnold and a second from Director Snyder on item 5, starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Frederick.
Yes.
Director Frederick. Thank you. Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosboll.
Yes.
Director Hernandez. Absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Mastin.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie is absent. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Girio.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The motion passes. Would you please introduce the next item?
Item 6A is report of the General Manager, and that report can be found on page 35. Dennis Mulligan is here to present his report. Go ahead, Dennis.
Thank you and good morning, everybody. My written report is before you. I'll highlight and expand upon a couple items. First, toll collection. In my June 21st General Manager's report, I highlighted that we had become aware of a fast-track tolling issue wherein a number of 2-axle vehicles were misclassified and charged at a 3-axle toll rate. So in addition to my written report, I have a little additional detail for those that like the detail. The total number of transactions that were misclassified as 3-axle were 55,202. As of this juncture, we still have 5,863 transactions that need to be refunded. So work is ongoing to wrap that up. The fast track customers have all been fixed. If they're Bay Area fast track customers, anyone that contacted the customer service center has been fixed. But some transactions are tied to fast track accounts that are not part of the Bay Area consortium. They're from Southern California, and some are invoice payments, and those are all being processed expeditiously. But I just wanted to give you that update that out of 55,202 misclassified transactions, we still owe 5,863 transactions a refund, and we're working dutifully on that, and I'll continue to update you on that going forward. The Metropolitan Transportation Commission created a Blue Ribbon Transit Recovery Task Force about a little over a year ago to address the Bay Area's challenges associated with the ongoing pandemic. It was a 32-member group. It included transit agencies, MTC commissioners, as well as advocates. Director Dave Rabbit and I had the pleasure of serving on it. They wrapped up their work in July, and earlier this week on Wednesday, MTC approved a Blue Ribbon Action Plan, and I have a link to that in my General Manager's report, so I encourage anyone that's interested in that to take a look at it and to ask me questions. Related to that, MTC as follow-up is going to conduct a business case analysis of different opportunities and options to have better network coordination in the region. They've created a network management business case advisory group, and I'll have the pleasure of serving on that. Wednesday, they appointed me to that group. Separately, MTC, about a little over a year ago, created a Fare Integration Task Force, and the work on that effort is progressing quite well. The fare integration has been identified in the region as something that creates friction to greater transit ridership. And so we'll bring that group, their tentative findings, to your Transportation Committee or Finance Committee next month. But we look forward to sharing you with the latest updates on that. Kind of linked to the Blue Ribbon Task Force works is getting transit out of traffic, speeding up bus trips. And my hat's off to San Francisco MTA for being at the vanguard of getting buses out of traffic. Park Presidio and Lombard will have temporary high occupancy vehicle lanes that will benefit our buses as well as muni buses. And so that's in my staff report, but I did want to give them a shout out and talk about how they're an early adopter of the recommendations from the Blue Ribbon effort. The ongoing pandemic continues to affect district operations. We're still losing about $1.3 million every week compared to weeks before the pandemic in terms of bridge tolls and transit fares. During the week of September 5th, ridership on our buses was down about 74%. So we carried only 26% of our normal bus ridership pre-pandemic. Our ferry ridership was down 83%. So we only carried about 17% of our normal ferry ridership. And bridge traffic was down about 20%. We are incrementally adding service back as customers return. On Monday, we added 2 morning ferry trips from Larkspur to San Francisco, and we added several bus trips on September 12th, earlier this month, on a variety of different routes. Principally, the biggest change was on the Route 40 across the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge, where we added a half dozen trips. The $1.3 million that we're losing every week highlights the district's need for and usage of the COVID relief funding that MTC has allocated to us. We're very grateful to Speaker Pelosi and Congress for passing the legislation that provided the American Rescue Plan Act funding, and it's been vital to us. In terms of the workplace reopening in downtown San Francisco, our commute bus service, which is about half of our bus service, and the lion's share of our ferry service is tied to downtown San Francisco offices reopening, and that is occurring slowly. The Bay Area Council and MTC partnered to do monthly polling data. They had planned on August being the last month that they would poll based on the state's grand reopening on June 15th, and the mass vaccinations have been occurring. However, the Delta variant has thrown a monkey wrench into things. Many companies that had planned on reopening between September and December and bringing workers back to San Francisco have now pushed that out till after the first of the year. So I have a link there so you can review the data. It's very interesting data. I encourage you to take a look at it. Our market has some minor variances from it, but it's very useful. But a good indicator of how slow the reopening is going is this week, Dreamforce, the Salesforce conference is occurring in San Francisco. In 2019, there were 171,000 people attending that conference in San Francisco. This week, there were about 1,000. So we look forward to San Francisco reopening. We're not there yet, but we anticipate that after the first of the year, things will reopen into the spring, and we'll learn what the new normal travel patterns are. 2 other things to highlight. The Bridge District presented to the board, staff did, back in February, a bicycle safety study. Last month you established, or this month you're going to establish a public hearing on that process, but we have a virtual open house that's ongoing between now and October 10th, and we're looking to enhance safety on the sidewalks. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that. And also the Roundhouse at the south end of the bridge in the visitor area just reopened, providing food and beverage services to bridge visitors. A company called Equator Coffees is in there. They're a retail and wholesale specialty coffee roaster and coffee farm owner. It's a women-owned, LGBTQ founded and early adopter of the Fair Trade certification. And they're also the first California coffee roaster to achieve B Corp certification. So we're excited to see them in the space and to provide visitor amenities for folks that come and visit the bridge. Next, I'd like to talk about retirements and recognitions. First off, I'd like to announce the retirement of John Barch, Sr., commonly called Johnny Barch. He retired after 25 years and 5 months of service with the district. He was originally hired as a temporary laborer, promoted to a permanent status in 1996, and he was promoted to chief laborer back in 1998. He was named the Employee of the Month in July of 2012, Employee of the Year in 2012. But a particular note I would like to call out is Mr. Barch, as our chief laborer, designed the planting that was the centerpiece of the suicide deterrent system ceremony when we marked the start of construction, wherein after the requisite speeches, the families that had lost loved ones at the bridge closed out that planting that's beneath the roundhouse there. He designed that. He was instrumental in keeping the bridge looking in tip-top shape. Next, I'd like to announce the retirement of Patrick White as a bus operator. He's following in the footsteps of his brother, who was also a bus operator that retired a few months ago. Patrick was with us for 29 years and 9 months, and we wish Patrick all the well in his retirement. Next up, the retirement of Stephen Traversi as a bus operator. He retired after 26 years and 6 months of service with the district. He originally joined us as a full-time bus operator in November of 1994. We wish him a long and happy retirement. Another bus driver with lots of service I'd like to recognize, who is retiring, is Joe Fonseca. He is retiring after 21 years and 4 months of service with the district. He joined us as a full-time bus operator in April of 2000. So I wish Mr. Fonseca also a long and happy retirement. So that's it for retirements, and as noted by one of the public speakers, we do have bus operators retiring, and so I do want the board to know that we have done a recruitment, and we're starting a new class of bus operators with candidates that pass our initial screening. Now to service awards. The first service award is for 40 years of service to the Bridge District. This goes to Brenda Shepard. She's currently a bus operator. Of note, she joined the bridge as a toll collector and became a bus operator when we converted to all electronic tolling in 2013. So she's been a very incredible employee with great customer service skills for 40 years with the district, and we're very fortunate to have her. And we're pleased she has not chosen to retire yet. But she enjoys spending time with family and sewing and crocheting, and we're just glad that she's part of our team here. Skipping from 40 years to 30 years, it's hard to believe, but Mr. Willie Gibson has been with the district for 30 years. He is our facilities and equipment superintendent. He joined the district in September of 1991 as a temporary part-time lane worker. Those are the employees that would place the little plastic tubes in the roadway from the back of the pickup truck before we had the movable median barrier. Mr. Gibson exemplifies the ladders of opportunity that are available to employees here at the Bridge District because today he runs our Streets and Grounds department. He's an incredible employee. During his career with us, he was the Employee of the Month in September 1995, then again about 5 years later in August 2010, and he graduated from the Dominican University Leadership Program in 2015. Next, we have a 20-year service award to Mr. John Eberly. He's our Deputy District Engineer. We're pleased that he's been with us for 20 years. He is a vital member of our engineering department team, and many of you are familiar with his work. He joined us 20 years ago as a supervising civil engineer. Then he was promoted to the Deputy District Engineer. In his free time, he enjoys walking, hiking, and gardening with his wife, Gretchen, and his dog, Uli, and spending time with his 3 daughters, family, and friends. Another 20-year service award goes to our planning director, Mr. Ron Downing. Mr. Downing joined the district in September of 2001 as a principal planner. He was the Employee of the Month in May of 2007 and Employee of the Year in 2007. Prior to the district, he worked for other transit agencies such as Washington Metro Area Transit or WMATA and with AC Transit in Oakland. In his free time, he enjoys international travel and he speaks several languages. Another 20-year service award goes to one of our bus mechanics, Ken Sanford. He joined us 20 years ago in September of 2001. Another 20-year award goes to Abel Munez. He is a bus operator who joined us in September 28th of 2001. So we're very pleased to recognize him. Another bus operator who joined us at the same time is John Wu. We were all part of the same class in September 28th of 2001. So we're very pleased to have all these great employees working for us. Then every month, a committee of the employees selects the Employee of the Month. And this month, the Employee of the Month committee selected Mr. Edward Fong. He's a Senior Desktop Systems Administrator in our Information Technology Department. His availability, his patience, his responsiveness have been unparalleled and called out by his colleagues, especially during the difficult adjustments during COVID-19. COVID-19 stressed the district. We transitioned immediately to remote work and remote meetings, and he is staffing the meeting today as I look down the room at him with multiple screens in front of him. So his coworkers say that he does a superior job at everything that he does, and most importantly, he's a pleasure to work with. He was born in Hong Kong. He's been a resident of Pacifica since 1995, and he enjoys a whole host of activities, including rock climbing, flag football, snowboarding, board games, video games, hiking, and backpacking. So we're grateful that he's with us, and I want to acknowledge that his colleagues selected him as the Employee of the Month for September of 2000, 21. And with that, it concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. I'll let others say it first, and if they don't, then I'll say it at the end. Are there any questions or comments from board members?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Dick Groswell. I had a question or two.
Go ahead, certainly.
You know, regarding the public comments and the fact that one of the speakers indicated we were losing employees to other districts, could, maybe this is for Kelly, but could we get information on that? I know not names, but if you had that information on are we losing people to other districts, and if so, how many in the various positions and bargaining units and management and so forth? I'd be curious to know that. It's not my understanding that we've had that big a problem, but if it is, I think we all would want to know. So.
Certainly, we will include an item in the written general manager's report for next month's meeting that shows you the number of positions where we've had people leave that were not retirements and that were not associated with pending terminations. And
you mentioned that you have another class coming up. I noticed we had 3 retirements and another person with 40 years in this meeting packet. How large is that, the training class, or how big a group is that?
The upcoming class is 8 individuals that have been identified and went through our screening process that were deemed appropriate candidates.
Okay, thank you. And the other speakers comment, or I guess both of them, but one of them focusing on the pension. We've had very little discussions or agenda items at the board level on the pension. It does seem like, I guess this would be for Chair Parr, and we didn't even do it when I was chair many, many years ago. But given I didn't realize those funding levels were that low, it does seem like we all need a little educating on why the pension plan is in that condition. It would be helpful to have an agenda item at some point, so I guess I would make that request. Thank you.
And staff could send information out to the board to update them. Just quickly as background, the employees of the Bridge District participate in one of 4 different pension plans based on their collective bargaining agreement. We have people that participate in the CalPERS, which is the largest group of employees. The next group of employees in terms of size is GG TARP, the Golden Gate Transit Amalgamated Pension Plan. Then we have employees that participate in a multi-employer ERISA plan managed by the Inland Boatmen's Union, which represents our deckhands and our terminal assistants. Then we have employees who are vessel masters or captains on the ferry boats. They participate as an Appendix F in a multi-employer plan under the Marine Engineers Beneficial Association. Of those plans, the bus drivers is in the most severe condition, but we can send some information out to the board members to educate them on where that is. And then in closed session, we talk about labor negotiations at upcoming meetings. We can talk about that further in terms of the contributions that are perhaps necessary.
Thank you. Could that memo include how much we've made in contributions over each of the last 2 years? I have no idea. I know it's in our annual budget, but I just forget. So thank you.
Certainly.
Director
Director.
Maston, I have a question. Oh.
Certainly. Go ahead.
So Dennis, you mentioned the new class, and what kind of attrition do we usually have with the folks in the classes, and how long is the process from the time the class begins until they're in a seat and on the road?
Certainly. For a class of 8, I would anticipate we'd have 6 that successfully complete the training. It's an 11-week training program. They're in the seat partway through the program with an experienced operator initially. But at the conclusion of the class, they are on their own in service working for the district. Okay. And they're paid during that period that they're in training.
Okay. And how long did it take to get 8 qualified people to be in a class?
We started the recruitment, I believe, less than a month ago.
Oh, all right. That's good news. Thanks. Thank you.
All right, are there other questions or comments? I appreciate all of those. Director Groswell, at the Labor Advisory Committee meeting this morning, we did ask some of those same questions, and perhaps some of those will be answered in closed session today too. But if not, I appreciate the fact that we'll get some information that makes us a little more grounded. I was clear I didn't want to be a trustee, but but there are some pieces of information that will get out to the board. Thank you for that.
President Parr, this is Dennis. I have one correction. I apologize. It's a class of 6, not a class of 8. My apologies.
All right. Thank you for that correction.
Thank you, Barbara.
Certainly. My comment was a little lighter than that. I always like to go through and see how many years of experience are retiring, either that or how many are getting service awards. And if my numbers are correct, it's about 260 total years that we acknowledged this morning. So that's significant. We have employees that we value that are long-term, and we appreciate that. With that, Madam Secretary, would you please introduce the next item? Did I get all of the board members that wanted to speak?
I believe you did.
All right. All right. Then would you please introduce the next item?
Sure. Item number 6B is the report of the attorney and staff reports found on page 51. Kim Manolis is on the line to present his report. Go ahead, Kim.
Thanks, Amaret. Good morning, everybody. My written report is before you. As Amaret said, I'm happy to take any questions. And just as a heads up, we will have 2 different closed sessions this afternoon. Later this morning. One for a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation under 54956.9A of the Government Code, the Workers' Comp matter, and then a conference with your labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6 in 2 parts. One, negotiations with ATU, and second with the Labor Coalition. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any questions related to the attorney's report? Hearing none, Madam Secretary.
Note for the record that because of a conflict, I won't be able to participate in that executive session. Thank you.
Both of them, or just one item?
Probably both at this stage today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you again for your comments, Director Grosswell. Madam Secretary, would you please introduce the next item?
Certainly. Item 6C is report of the chief engineer, and that report can be found on page 33 of your packet, of the B&O packet, actually. And Ava Barfurber is on the line to present that report. Go ahead, Ava.
Thank you, Amaret. President Parr, members of the board, my written report is before you. I would like to highlight 3 projects the engineering department is working on. First is the physical suicide deterrent construction. The fabricator, Carl Stoll, the fabricator of net, continues deliveries of the net to the contractor's yard in Richmond. In addition to completing the net support installations on the spans of the suspension bridge, the contractor has now completed the support installation on the North Approach Viaduct. And now they are preparing a work plan for the net support installation on the South Approach Viaduct. It is anticipated that the net itself, they will start installation of the net on the North Approach Viaduct beginning the 2nd week of October. As of now, the wind retrofit is about 98% complete. The remaining work involves short sections of the bridge railing next to the suspension bridge towers. And finally, the contractor is also progressing with replacement of the side traveler rail installation on the east top chord of the suspension bridge. And I would like to move to the wind tunnel testing of the suspension bridge railing. Last month, I reported about anticipating a presentation to the board of the wind tunnel testing results for the railing sound mitigation measure in September. However, the consultant needs more time to analyze all data collected in the wind tunnel against measurements that they took at the bridge and to complete their report. We plan to present a proposed mitigation measure at the November board meeting. I'm sorry for the delay. But we want to make sure that we develop the best solution, one that is both effective and feasible. And finally, moving on to mandatory bridge inspections. As I reported previously, the consultant, HDR Engineering, are progressing from the north towards the south of the bridge. The inspectors are now working on the inspections of the suspension bridge, and it is planned that these inspections will be finalized next month. So the next structure the consultant will be inspecting will be Fort Point Arch. So with this, I am happy to answer questions that the board may have for me.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from board members for Eva Bauer? Hearing none, thank you very much for your report. Madam Secretary, would you please continue to the next agenda item?
Thank you. There's no other reports under item 7, so we're going to move on to item number 8. And 8A is the report of the Building and Operating Committee meeting from Thursday, September 23rd. Summary of recommendations for this meeting can be found on page 55 of your packet. So I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. And my reminder is always, colleagues, the action items before you today were discussed in further detail at yesterday's Building and Operating and Finance Auditing Committee meetings before being presented to the full board for action. And again, I'd like to thank both the committee and non-committee board members for taking time and having an interest in attending those Thursday committee meetings. With that, Director Theriault, would you please present your committee's report to the board?
Yes, thank you, President Barr. The Building and Operating Committee met yesterday, and I bring one item from them before the board for its action today. The committee recommends the board authorize setting of a public hearing on Monday, 18th October 2021 at 10 a.m. to receive public comment regarding recommended actions included in the bicycle safety study for the Golden Gate Bridge as detailed in the staff report. And I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second. Yep.
Thank you. Are there any board members with questions or comments on this item? All right, hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We're voting on item 8A1 with the first from First Vice President Theriault and the second from Second Vice President Cochran, starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yeah.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosboll.
Yes.
Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie. Absent. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Theriault.
Yes.
And President Barr.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That motion passes. Thank you, Chair Theriault. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. That wraps up item 8A. We're going to move on to 8B, which is the report of the Finance Auditing Committee meeting of Thursday, September 23rd. That summary of recommendation can be found on page 57, and I'm going to turn it back to you again.
Thank you. Chair Rabbit, would you please begin your committee's report to the board?
Thank you, President Parr. The Finance Auditing Committee is recommending authorization of Board Agenda Item 8B1 to authorize execution of Professional Services Agreement number 2021-D-039, On-Site Medical Services with Pivot On-Site Innovations of Towson, Maryland, in the amount of $1,712,873 for a 3-year contract beginning October 1st, 2021, and with 2 one-year options exercised at the general manager's discretion for $563,291 for each option year, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board members on this item? All right, hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We're voting on item 8B1 with a first from Director Rabbit and a second from Director Snyder, starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosval.
Yes.
Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Mastin.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie is absent. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Terrio.
Yes.
And President Barr.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion also passes unanimously.
Thank you. That item is adopted. Chair Rabbit, do you have anything further to report?
Madam President, that concludes my report.
All right. In that case, thank you, Chair Rabbit. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. We're moving on to item 10 since there's no addresses to the board under item number 9. Item 10A is discussion and possible action to terminate suspension of board procedural rules and policies for COVID-19 related emergency actions. Mr. Mulligan's brief staff reports on page 59. He's available if directors have any questions.
All right. Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Mulligan before we continue? All right. It appears we shall not be terminating the suspension of board procedural rules and policies at this time. May I have a motion to revisit this matter at the next regular board meeting on October 22nd?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, are there any questions? Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We're voting on item 10A. We're going to start with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosval.
Yes.
Director Hill, Hernandez, I'm sorry. Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Mastin.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie is absent. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Terrio.
Yes.
And President Barr.
Aye.
Thank you for the unanimous vote there.
Thank you. The motion passes. Before we move to item 11, unfinished business, which will be the Attorney Manolius's closed session report, I'd like to again thank everyone for being patient during the meeting. We'll be placing the public on hold and we'll reconnect the call after closed session discussions. Mr. Manolius, would you please take us into closed session?
Of course, President Parr, thanks very much. Excuse me, at this time, the board will go into closed session for a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, their Government Code Section 54956.9A, regarding the matter of John Walker versus Goldgate Bridge District. And also, we're going to do a conference with a labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6 for two items, negotiations with the ATU and negotiations with the various labor coalition unions. And with that, we'll go into closed session.
Thank you. We'll now pause while we place the public line on hold.
This call is being recorded.
All right, we are back in open session.
Thank you. Mr. Manolius, would you please provide your closed session report out?
Yes, thank you, President Parr. The board met in closed session for a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9A with regard to the matter of John Walker versus Golden Gate Bridge District. The board provided its lawyer with appropriate guidance as to how to handle that matter, and the board also met in closed session for a conference with its labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6 for negotiations with the ATU and negotiations with the Labor Coalition, and the board gave the negotiator appropriate guidance as to how to proceed.
All right, thank you very much for your report. We have no new business to report. Item number 13 is communications. If you would like a copy of any of the additional communications, please contact the district secretary's office. We've reached the end of the agenda, and there are no further items to be presented to the board. Again, thank you to the board members and to everyone who joined us today for the meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Secretary.
All right, I assume that one of those is a second?
Yes.
May I have an official second? All right, hearing no objections, today's adjournments are, in my opinion, very personal. I'd like to adjourn today's meeting in the memory of Larry Thiessen, Sr., who's the brother-in-law of Second Vice President Gerald Cochran. Tony Rinaldo Sechetano, Jr., the brother of Marina Sechetano. Dorothy Dottie Gargatis, the mother-in-law of one of our former board members from Del Norte County, Director Jim Hopper. And John Walsh, Sr., longtime representative and champion of IBEW Local 6. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. This concludes the meeting of the Board of Directors. The time is 11:18 a.m.